So name the quadrant in which the angle lies. They give us 2 bits of information. We're going to draw our 2 quadrants. The first sign says cosine's greater than 0. So, Natalie, what's that telling us here? X over r is, that's a greater than sign, so it's positive. So x over r is positive. That really just means what? X is positive. Don't care about the r because r is always positive. Which 2 quadrants is that true? 1 and 4. Good. The second one says cotangent is greater than 0. If we're talking cotangent, that's x over y. Maya, if we're greater than 0, what's that telling us here? It's positive. If, unlike the last one, there's no crossing out to be done. If x over y is positive, what is that telling you about your x and your y? They have to be the same sign. Good. X over y is positive means they're the same sign. They could both be positive or they could both be negative. Which 2 quadrants are they the same sign? 1 because they're both positive, or 3 because they're both negative. So which quadrant is true for both of them? That would be quadrant 1. Naming the quadrant. Probably the easiest thing we have to do. Well, maybe besides calculator. Yeah. We're finding the approximate value. So if we're finding the approximate value, that's when we're using the calculator. The first thing I want to do when I turn on my calculator is make sure I'm in the right mode. If I'm doing cotangent of pi over 9, I hit the mode button right here. Which mode do I want to be in? Radians. So I go down to radians and hit enter. There's no degree sign, so it's radians. Hit clear to get out of there. I don't have a cotangent button, so I'm using one of these 3. I'm either using sine, cosine, or tangent. Which one of those 3 am I using? Tangent. Oh, not all 3 of them, sorry. Tangent of pi, so second up arrow to get me pi. Tangent of pi divided by 9. Close parentheses, hit enter. That is not your answer. That is tangent. If I want cotangent, what am I going to have to do? X to the negative 1 thing. This thing right here, that's the button I want. So I hit that. It takes my answer and raises it to the negative 1. It's going to do the reciprocal. My answer is 2.75 when I round to 2 decimals. Finding the approximate value. On this one, we're finding the exact value. Can you find 9 pi over 2 on your unit circle? No, it's too big. So when the fraction is too big, that's when we're making a mixed fraction. In other words, you're trying to think in your brain, how many times does 2 go into 9? 4. 2 goes into 9 4 times, because 2 times 4 is 8. And then how many would you have left over? 1 more. So it'd be 4 and 1/2. That's a mixed fraction. Okay? If you were super awful, and some of us are, and you in your calculator took 9 divided by 2, it'll tell you it goes in evenly 4 times. Okay? With 0.5 left over, which is 1/2. Okay? Know how to make mixed fractions. You did it in 7th grade. It's 4.5. Okay? So as you look at your unit circle, and you're going to 4.5 pi, here's the start. How far have I gone if I go to here? That's 1 pi. That's a full pi. Okay, look at your unit circle. That's a full pi. If I go back to the start, how many have I gone now? 2 pi. And then I come to here, and now I've gone 3 pi. And then I go back to here, and I've gone 4 pi. So I've gone 4 pi. Now I want to do the 1/2 extra. Where am I going to end up on my unit circle if I go 1/2 pi more? The top. This is 1/2 a pi up here. That's where it's telling you to end up there. Okay, so keep doing that problem with that spot as 9 pi over 2. 9 pi over 2, that's 4.5. We said that was up at the top. So this problem is 4 times whatever sine is going to be up here at the top of my unit circle. If I'm doing sine up here, okay, that's y over r. Chris, what's my y over r going to be? 1 is his y, and his r is 1 as well. So it's 1 over 1, or just 1. Plus 3 times cotangent of negative pi over 4. So as we look at our unit circle, I'm drawing it on the board because I'm recording the YouTube video and they can't do that. Negative pi over 4. Here's positive pi over 4 right here. You go up to pi over 4. What would you do to get to negative pi over 4? Go down. Just flip it over the axis. So instead of being up here, now I'm down here. It's at 7 pi over 4? Yeah. 7 pi over 4. That gives you the ordered pair at that spot of radical 2 over 2 and negative radical 2 over 2. If I'm doing y over r there, I'm sorry, I'm doing cotangent, so I'm doing x over y. Julian, what's my x going to be? Radical 2. So radical 2 over your y value, what's your y value going to be? Negative radical 2. If you have radical 2 over negative radical 2, what's that going to get you? Negative 1. Same thing on top and bottom, so it cancels, and that 1 is there to get you negative 1. 4 times 1 is 4. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. 4 minus 3 is 1. Finding the exact value. All right, here we go. Cotangent's 2/3, secant's less than 0. We're finding the exact value of sine. So let's start off by doing x, y, and r, making sure we understand that part. Cotangent's 2/3, Diego, so what does that tell me here? X is 2, and so what's your 3? Y is 3. Okay, x is 2, y is 3. We can find r. Okay, we can find r pretty quickly. We can do Pythagorean theorem, x squared plus y squared equals r squared. 2 squared plus 3 squared. 4 plus 9, 13 equals r squared. Square root, r is square root of 13. Great, that's just Pythagorean theorem. That's not the hard part. You make sure you use everything. We haven't done this yet. Secant is less than 0. If secant is less than 0, secant is r over x. Victor, if we're less than 0, what's that mean? It's negative. So what ends up being negative here? The x is negative. Don't care about the r, so it's the x that's negative. The x is negative, but wait, there's more. Okay, the x was negative, but remember what they told me in the beginning. In the beginning, they told me cotangent was 2/3. Or in other words, cotangent was positive. If they tell you tangent or cotangent and all in the problem, alarms go off in your head. Oh yeah, this one's going to suck because the signs are going to be weird. Cotangent is positive. If cotangent is positive, that tells you your x and the y have to be the same sign. So what does that tell you about your y? It's negative. I knew my x was negative, but because of that, my y is negative as well, so it looks like it's positive, but it's not. Once I've done that, then I'm going to find sine. So sine is y over r. My y is negative 3. My r is radical 13. I don't like radical on bottom, so I'm going to multiply top and bottom by radical 13. My final answer is negative 3 radical 13 all over 13. Questions there? Sine is less than 0. So if we're talking sine, that's y over r less than 0 is negative. Which direction am I going to go if y over r is negative? Down. The y is negative. I'm heading down. Quadrant 3 or 4. Good. It should be either be 3 or 4. Tangent is greater than 0. Tangent, again, that's one of those weird ones. Tangent is y over x, and it's got to be positive. Again, for the 8th time today, if y over x is positive, what does that tell you about y and x? Same sign. Which quadrants do they have the same sign? Quadrant 1 and quadrant 3. Both positive, both negative in quadrant 3. So which one do they overlap in? 3. Yeah.